All right. I don't know if we need to sign in. Do we need to sign in? Do we have a reason? Yeah, I guess pass that around. All right, so this is about negotiating. It's one of my favorite parts of real estate. So, aside from real estate stories, I'm always very conscious of how you treat people. That's a very important part of your negotiating. I'll shut my phone off if you shut yours off.
Okay.
So, you know, I've had different people come to me. I have it myself where you got a text or an email or even a phone call and you're looking at it and you're going, okay, that's not nice, that's insulting, I've got my backup. And that's actually a huge part of how we're controlling our clients. And my biggest thing that I tell myself is not to make this business personal. So when people might text me in caps and yell at me or make the point the way that they do, I'm going to look at it for a moment and I'm going to say, okay, they're having a lot of anxiety. I'm not going to buy into it. I'm going to understand their situation and I'm not going to answer any of the personal part. I'm just going to take out of it when they said you. I don't ever want to say something to somebody, if you think about it in your personal life or in your business life, if you say to somebody, you did this, what's their answer going to be? They're going to come back with, well, you. I don't want my clients to go, well, you to me. I don't want them to point out negative things, and I don't want to make it negative. Everybody's always, deals are hard, they're very big, there's a lot happening. So either, I mean, I've had times where I had a deal recently where the husband and the wife seemed to be going different directions. You know, you're feeling it. And one morning I pick up the phone early in the morning and the wife calls and she's crying. You don't know, this isn't a good relationship. We just sold our house. I'm not going to have any place to live. He beats me, does this and that. Okay, all right. Well, here's a lawyer you can call. You obviously, you can't unsell your house. I can't help you here. And then by the end of the day, she said, you know, I just want to let you know I was just having a bad morning. I said, no, I don't really think so. Nobody makes a call like that. They're having a bad morning. You obviously have issues that need to be taken care of. But I started to see that good guy, bad guy personality. And then another morning, she called. See, when somebody calls you before 9, it's not a good thing. They're having anxiety because my clients know when I call them at 9, it's, we need to reduce. I thought everything was okay last night. It's different in the morning. So things dwell. So when you get that early call, you know, you kind of, do you want to ignore that person? You don't. Somebody that's calling you that early has something on their mind, but you want to let them know that there's boundaries. So this woman called again and said, blah, 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 blah. I said, I'm sorry, you must be having a bad morning, and I'm not. I said, so why don't we talk in a little while, have your coffee, see if you can calm down a little, and then we can discuss this situation. No, I want to discuss right now. I said, I'm sorry, I'm not going to have a conversation like this first thing in the morning. I can understand you're upset, whatever you think it is. We will talk in an hour. I actually hung up on her because this was our second experience. I don't usually do that. I do apologize afterward, or I hope that they will. But I don't want to buy into that personal, nor do I want somebody attacking me first thing in the morning when there was no reason for it. So I can understand you're a little stressed. It's a bad moment. Can you breathe a little? I tell people, I don't tell people this early in the morning, but when I go into a deal with people, I tell them, real estate is very stressful. No matter what, I'm here to protect you. It's a big situation, and there's a lot of ups and downs. Do you drink? Do you do drugs? Do you exercise? Whatever you do, step it up. You need to do more of it. Take drugs, get a bunch. You like to drink? A lot. You are going to need something. So whatever it is that you tap into, let's get that happening. So I can remind them later. Remember we had that discussion? Time for a little drinky. Then we can talk. I'll have mine. You have yours. Then we can discuss this situation. So aside from, discussing individual ways to negotiate, Look at your situations. Look at the people. I actually watched this interesting email. Now, this is on a small scale between my assistant and title because I'm a micromanager, so she sends an email, I get to read it. And it said, just to see how do people think, and I watched it and she said, we're closing at 9 o'clock, please send out a settlement notice. And I looked at it and I said, okay, title's not gonna like that. And then I see title answer and say, I don't see that on the books. Did we set this up already? Because I know the title girls, they don't work for us. They work with us. They're an independent company. We always want their support. And they don't like to be told. Plus there's 250 agents. So she didn't mean it to come off that way, but their point of view is we are 5 people. What if we already are all booked? So have the courtesy and the respect, and I went running over to title and I said, I'm listening, I'm laughing, because I want to be their best friend. I know that certain people they're not comfortable with because people go in and attack them like they're your assistant, like they're supposed to be doing things for you. So the moral of their story was, can you check with us? So just think about that. That was just a small little text, but everybody likes the respect of their position. So when you're talking to people, get to know your clients. I'd say that's probably one of my bigger success stories is getting to know my people. Who's in charge? Is it the husband or the wife? Do I need to talk to both of them? Don't think that when you spoke to the wife, you spoke to the husband. It doesn't go through one person's ear and go to the other. If you're in a divorce particularly, switch to email or text. Don't ever have a sidebar. Somewhere they're going to use you. They're going to use you like you represent one side and not the other. So when there's a divorce or anything, everything you're going to do by email or that everything you have it written so they both knew about it. So assess this. Assess your situation. That's your job. There is no one size fits all. Your job is to get to know your people. What's going to be your best way? Does this one text? Does this one email? And if you're in the middle of a text, which we do very often, and it's going south, it's time to pick up the phone. Either you're reading it wrong, it's getting too heated, don't continue. Put an end to it and just call them and say, I think, we're getting a little off base, it's starting to sound, I'm not trying to sound angry or upset, we're by text, let's talk. Don't ever hide from the situation. So when I just went on a listing, and I'm the 3rd listing agent, and what was the biggest problem? Well, the biggest problem, of course, their house wasn't sold. What was the biggest problem with your realtor? No feedback. When is the hardest time to call your clients? When you have nothing to say. They're not getting any showings. They're flipping out. You don't know what to tell them. Call them. That's the time you have to call them more often. I know you're anxious. I'm anxious for you. I tell people, listen, you are the loveliest people. I don't think we'll be dating afterward. I don't see us having coffee. I'm hoping to make money off you. Just so you know, I have the exact same anxiety you have. You're my sale. I want to make it happen, nor do I want you to be upset. What can we do? The market is this is this. We need to reduce. And I did put on Facebook, I don't know if you read, this is that time of year that we have to discuss reducing, like by the minute. So my analogy of September 1st is that it's the day after Christmas and all the toys are on sale because as soon as the summer's over, your value dropped. So it's nobody's fault, it's the market. Everybody went back to school, they don't have that same push, that same drive to go buy a house, and life has changed. So whatever the summer prices were the highest prices. That was when people wanted that special doll that comes out right before Christmas. Now Christmas is over, it's not as important. And the prices start going down. And the amount of people looking stops. And it's a very hard time of year. I don't know, I'm sure some people have that, some people don't. All the sellers heard that it's a seller's market. The more expensive market goes to a standstill. You start to, it's a hard time of year. It's always hard to face the reality that your listing isn't doing anything. So this one gentleman, we're not getting any showings. We're not. I just had my brokers open there, so I don't really usually do brokers open. I start to do things to show them there isn't anything I haven't done or won't do to sell your house. 2 things. Number 1 is we're off season now, and I just can't change that. you might not, we generally get busy again in January. This is a hard time of year. And the second, what wouldn't I do? So I had a broker's open, which to me, sometimes it will highlight a home that maybe somebody wouldn't have thought of, but basically you're just showing your sellers that I'm doing stuff for you. You know, you're trying to show them. And he said, I said, you need to reduce, everybody put in their feedback. And he said, well, if I reduce, will you reduce your commission? You know, I'm not going to get the amount of money that I expected to get. Of course, you know, they're taking a hit, you should take a hit. And it's a hard one. I would like to, but I first of all, do this for a living. And secondly, I truly believe that putting 3% in the computer for the buyer's agent is a plus when you're a different home. When there's a lot of homes in the neighborhood, so I came back and I told him that, first of all, I can't bridge the gap because our price is way too high. And secondly, the longer you're on the market, seller, believe it or not, the more it costs me to try to sell your home. I keep marketing it more, I keep doing brokers open, I'm having open houses, my expenses become greater. And also seller, I don't know if you recall, but a commission is split 4 ways. So I know everybody thinks that one big number that we get it, we split it with our company, buyer's agent gets it, and I'm trying to attract the agent. So we have your pictures look great, your write-up looks good, that's how we're talking to the buyer. The 3% commission is the way we're talking to the realtor, and we're saying, we're gonna pay you. We're gonna pay you more than a lot of the other commissions, or we're paying you full price, or we're not reaching in your pocket. So that's our communication with the agent, that 3%. There's no other way, you know, they'll tell you, well, are you trying to tell the agents? Like, I don't know, I can't stand outside your house and yell. There just isn't, and this is the whole thing, and people say things like, are you hitting the New York market? Yeah, I go every week into Manhattan, I hold up your flyers. We are attracting, do you know relo people? You know, if you speak to people that they do relo, that's part of their sales pitch. And in today's market, it's only a pitch. Most of you probably don't even know that there used to be a relo market. I was on a relo team at Prudential, and all the big companies, Merck and all, would hire particular agents. But regardless, no matter how somebody is hired, they're still going to look in the multiple listing to get their thing. So they want to know, do you have that connection? So sometimes I'll just say, yes, I have. I know I do a lot of reload, you know, because you're going to go, they're still interviewing people that are going to sell them on this thing that there isn't. You know, you contacting the companies, yes, I'm calling them all and telling them about your house with stucco. But by the way, and I have a lot of stucco listings, Relo doesn't usually allow their buyers to buy stucco homes. They have lately allowed them to look at it and have a stucco test done. That's a whole nother story. I don't know if any of you do stucco, but that's a whole nother nemesis in life. So that's my grand opening. Anybody have any questions, anything they're bringing that you need? Oh, you're an active group. Okay, so I made some notes here. Oh, look, somebody wants to show Chancellor. I'm so excited.
Nadine, I would like to add to your communication piece, though.
Yes.
That you said that, you know, if you're texting or emailing and it's not working, or your client is misunderstanding, you definitely have to change up your communication. Pick up the phone and call. 'Cause I had a client, and the same thing, you know, texting is the way he wanted to hear things and see things, but it just wasn't working, and there was a lot of miscommunication, and I would just pick up the phone and say, look, that's not the way it is. That's not what I said, and that's not, you know, it was obviously misunderstood. I said, going forward, we got to pick up the phone, and I need you to pick up the phone when you have a concern, because texting just isn't working. I know it's your preferred form of communicating, but so when we called, we started talking live. It went a lot smoother.
Good.
So yeah, you know, and I'm a big texter too, but
Well, we all are. It's the easiest way to communicate. It's quick, it's short, it's sweet. But are they getting the whole drift if they're answering back
Sometimes
something?
they read it and then they're thinking that you're not communicating properly, or that what they're saying, what you're saying they're thinking you're being short with them, or, I
No,
sometimes-
absolutely. We're not gonna stop doing it, but sometimes it
Right.
requires more than that.
Right,
Words don't have emotions.
Studies
Right.
have actually
So it
shown
could be
it's human
construed
nature
anyway.
to take the written word negatively,
Mhm.
Right.
if possible,
Mhm.
90% of the time.
Mm.
And you might not even have that in your head, but then
Right.
somebody else.
How about if you read quickly and missed some of the key words?
And really, that's what was happening.
Right.
You know, he'd read it while he was driving or whatever, and would never go back and read the full message. And I would say, well, I did send that information to you, and we, you know, I did disclose that, or I did discuss that, or I sent that to you. And he's like, really? When? What day? And, you know, so it was that matter that it wasn't read completely and that type of thing. So, yeah, picking up the phone once in a while really does
Yeah,
make
you
a
do
big
need to
difference.
let them get to know who you are and,
Yeah.
you know, keep control of it. I'm guilty of looking at agreement of sale sometimes through my phone and then saying, oh, how come I didn't see that? I missed home sale contingency. Yeah, so I've tried to tell myself to stop doing that so quickly, because when I negotiate, I like to give an entire answer. I don't like to start negotiating with the other agent and then come back and go, oh, oops, I'm not taking a $3,000 deposit, so, you know, after they already started talking. So you want to give back a comprehensive answer of everything about the agreement of sale when you're negotiating. Anybody else have any particular situations?
I'd just like to add that you are taking a reduction of your commission because it's off a percentage, so if they reduce, it's still a percentage.
Yes, I heard that word. I've never used that line. Yes, I just lost $150 because you reduced. Well, then you're kind of... Okay, so now I'm confused. Which way should I go? Well, you got to remember the words that people use, like, well, I just reduced 25,000. Well, I understand that, and the reason is that the market wasn't giving you that price. I wish I could overcome that, but it wasn't, you weren't getting that. You didn't, you know, when you're talking to another agent and you put your offer and they said the seller just reduced 25,000, well, I'm sure they didn't get an offer and say, hey, can I give you a discount? They obviously had to reduce, so that's out. That's nothing even to discuss. Who reduces if they don't need to, agent? Next. So now we're working off your new price. So that's always the other side. I'm talking mostly about our clients, but then there's that other realtor who's also a big pain in the ass to deal with. So the minute they tell you how long they've been in business, you're in trouble.
yes.
That person thinks very highly of themselves and feels that they need to, you know, put their arms and show you how great and how successful they are. And once again, don't play into it until the coin, you know, flips to the other side. The listing agents are people, for the most part, other than randomly, that have been in business a long time. And you're going to need them again. And you want to bear that in mind. So no matter what they're like, you're not going to overcome that. You just have to try to get around it, and you remember them. I remember, you know, agents very well, and when things change and I have multiple offers, I'm going to remember which one was a pain in the ass to deal with. I actually had a great opportunity a couple of years ago. One of the first deals I had ever made, the guy was just terrible. He was screaming, you don't know what the fuck you're doing. Like, I was at an affair, you know, with tears running down this. He was just beating me up over everything, and I was so new in the business. This was 20 years ago, and he just was mean about everything. And he put an offer in on one of my properties, and you know, we started talking. I remember you. I said, do you remember one of your early deals? And who was the person that you dealt with that was just so mean to you that you know, and he started to tell me a story. I said, you want to know who my person was? It was you. He said, what are you talking about? I said, you were just terrible. You were so mean to me. You're just lucky that I'm not feeling the same way. I said, you obviously mellowed with age. And he said he didn't remember. Well, bullies don't remember what they do. But, you know, think about that. Once again, there's no need to tell that agent what they're like. It's just, none of these people are your friends. You can hang up, you can call somebody. You should all have somebody that you call when, you know, I have my people that I call, okay, this is what I feel like saying. Okay, you done saying it? This is what you're not going to say. Now, so I have Diane Loomis and I are always exchanging words because we're such polar opposites in the way we do business. plus she has 10 sentences and I have one. So we call each other, give me some words, how do I get through this situation? And you need to, you need to have somebody to say what your situation is and to calm you down. But where can you go once you took the deal from being a business relationship to a personal relationship? You have no place to go with it. So put that in mind. The good thing for us women is this is a very woman's business, so sorry about that. Oh, look at this class. So it's, so I feel often that is the problem, that the men, you do have some women, but particularly sometimes need to flex their muscles. I have said very rude things like, how big is it? Do you need to show me? Like, there's only, I do have a limit of how many times that you're going to punish me, but I've been in business a long time and I'm known to say what I say, so I have the right to say that. So that's another thing. You take different people's classes, and I do have my way of speaking that it comes out of my mouth. It might not come out of your mouth. You have to find who you are, what are your words, which agent has a conversation that works for you, and you can't just say things that are inappropriate unless you're an inappropriate person. So I can get away with it. So, I had another, so here, just going into some stories. So I'm very big on, one of my early clients told me that we were trying to change a settlement date, and the seller wouldn't change the date, and the buyer got very upset. And then I asked the other agent, what is his reasoning? Well, this. And that buyer taught me something very important. He said, you know what, now I'm okay with it. I need a reason. I don't want you to tell me that somebody is arbitrarily doing something that affects me. He couldn't do it because his kids were in school or whatever. So I've learned to have a reason for everything. Everybody wants a reason, even if you have to kind of find that reason. So when you're putting an offer in and you're negotiating, you want to say the reason is, and you want to remember sometimes, like when I represent more sellers at this point of life, and when the other agent starts saying this, okay, your people do want to buy the house, don't they? So you don't want to do a whole negative presentation. Then you're wondering, why is this person putting an offer in? They love the house, they see what could be done, but these are the issues that they're dealing with in putting their offer in. So just beware of you're making such a presentation that the agent is like, so should I take you seriously? Like, do your people want the house or not? So I had, just along these lines, I had a listing in Bensalem, not my usual home, but that's okay. And I had an agent that had showed the house and said they liked it, and she kept whispering like a whole different price point. And she said her people are seeing this. Sometimes that's how we test each other. We do like to get things in writing, but I'll start off my negotiations that way. The house is $399. My people really like it. They're seeing something south of $350. So you just start the dialogue before you're going to put it in writing. So she said that she looked at it once, and then she was looking at it again. I wasn't getting a lot of showings. I really wanted to make it work. And then per chance, talking to people, I was out with Bud and Barb Silcox, and they live in Bensalem. He said, oh, we just put a listing up in Bensalem. I said, oh, I have an agent that's already showed my house twice, and they were in the same development in the Chamonix Valley. And he said, oh, is it so-and-so? She just made an appointment to see our home, but we sold the first day. Great. So I called that agent and I said, it's a really small world out there. Your people only want to live in the valley. You were just about to show the home on so-and-so. By the way, it went into a bidding war, and they got way above full price. So we're really the only game in town. They went up $20,000. Did they go in a bidding war? No. And somebody said, so what happens when it settles and they see it's a different price? Oh, well, I only know what I was told. Maybe they didn't go with that offer. So that's what I said. That was just interesting that you mentioned something. I had this information. We ended up closing that deal, and it worked very well. Actually, along the same lines, during the negotiations, they came back that they wanted $4,000 toward repairs. Now, it's interesting. You see these numbers sometimes, and it's way not what you're thinking. So I called the sellers and I said, they're looking for $4,000, what would you be willing to do? And I don't know, I think she said 3. I said, great, way too much, but I appreciate your thoughts. Let me see if I can do better for you. And I ended up, I offered them a lot less now that I knew what the seller had. So I don't always go that distance. So now I know what my seller's willing to do. To me, it seemed too much, but at least I know I could fall back on it. First of all, you don't always want to jump to that point so quickly. Okay, you know what, we'll split it with you. And the agent said, fine, like so quickly. So it was good, then you get a chance to kind of sell yourself when they came in to sign paperwork. I said, you shouldn't negotiate. You're very quick about things. So sometimes you read people a little differently and then you're surprised. You know, people hardline us. What I always say is all our clients play us. They do. So when they start to say things like, I need to get this neighborhood, this is the price I want, and you end up selling for a lot less. So try not to hear those negative words. Like perhaps somebody in this room was doing a negotiation and their client came in a lot lower than the house was listed at. Okay, so you're thinking, okay, well, it's a senior agent, they must know what they're doing, the price looks okay, we're so low, but you look at the history in there. Do you need to share the history with your buyer? You don't. Sometimes you're gonna know information, nobody asked you, sometimes I'm in the don't ask, don't tell, because you're gonna color the situation. So there's different frames of thought. Do we represent our buyers? We have buyer agency contracts. Do you represent your buyer to the point that you don't sell a house? I get that all the time. When I get an offer in, the way they wrote it, the small deposit, like you're trying to represent your buyer to the point you're not going to end up with this house. Did they love you? When you didn't get them that house because you thought that the roof should have been fixed or you put your own thoughts in there and they ended up not buying that house, you think they're loving you? They're not loving you. They look back and they say they really wanted that house. You kind of talked them out of it. I look at it to the agent, I say, I still have the listing. I have a 6-month contract. You have buyers that are going to hate you. They're not going to be happy. Stop, let's try to make a deal, not make a deal. So when I looked at the history and she looked at the history, you could see they had just renewed their contract. So they had been on the market, whatever their time was, their 3-4 months. They had just renewed and they had just reduced. Their house was a little different. When I looked at the house, the kitchen wasn't part of the family room. And these are things that I know that make a house difficult to sell. That development it's a condo type of ownership. All in all, this wasn't easy. The sellers weren't getting what they want. It's a hard sell. And she's negotiating on it, and the buyers say these words. What's the words? Words that I hate the most in our business. That this is our highest and best. This is the most we're going to pay. I don't want you to ever hear that. Start singing. La, 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 la. The highest and best that you're going to pay or that you're going to get, seller, is whatever we negotiate. I can't control that. So this is when we talk to our clients. They're trying to work us. They're trying to get us nervous. That, oh no, so you go back to another agent and your seller just gave you a counter and said, my seller said that's their final. You might have just slammed the door. Now you might have needed those words. I don't know what your negotiations were. You have to judge that, but you might have just slammed the door. And you can't unring a bell. So you don't want to have to eat those words. Don't say you're final. So when I have a client that says, that's the most I'm going to pay, I'll go, you're close. We're almost there. Let me see if I can make this work. Don't even deal with those words because you don't want them to have to feel like they have to eat the words that they just said. They're telling you that's the highest. You want to get more money out of them. So she came in and said, well, I gave them their highest and best. The deal is dead. And I said, that deal's not dead. There's nobody else looking at it. It's obvious. Been on the market all this time. She puts out for, look, just try to be aware of things that happen. Who's putting out for an open house every week? You've seen that house on the market. I could tell you a lot of listings in the neighborhoods that are sensitive to me. And you can put a picture together. You need an open house every week. You just re-up. It's not selling. There's more to it than them getting what they want. Not selling the house doesn't accomplish their goal. So, and the buyer keeps saying that's his highest and best. And at the end of the day, they made the deal. The buyer came up a little. The seller had no choice, even though they kept threatening that it was over. What was it over? What were they gonna do? The summer's almost over. The only thing that was over was them getting their dream, their thought of their price. I'm sorry you thought, well, you told me, then they come back at us. Why did you tell me that price? Because based on the comps, it looked like that could be a selling price. However, I don't know until we go on the market how your house is going to be perceived. That's the missing link. So when you go and you sit with somebody on a listing, the missing link is your house looks good, I'm really liking it, but then the buyers come in and sometimes they see things you didn't even think of. You didn't realize that was such a bad lot. You didn't know that they were all going to drive by. Whatever it is, or maybe you didn't know some innuendo about the neighborhood. This is the good side, this is the bad side. So you always have to leave that door open according to the comps, that this is what it looks like we should list at. However, your house is worth what a buyer's willing to pay for it. There's no other answer. What's the value of my home, what somebody's willing to pay, and what you're willing to accept. So remember that. So that deal closes this week, which is a good one. All right, so let's see, along another line, anybody have any questions or any other stories?
I sold a house in Port Richmond, and the agent is very well known down in that area, but she kept saying, you don't know what you're doing. I've been in this business since 1981. How do you handle that when she keeps, when they...
Well, I don't have all your experience, well, maybe you could help me. I would just kiss their ass to nausea. When I go to a closing, I have my diamonds on.
Unfortunately, that's not in my blood.
Well, you want to change times, you want to change it, you go the other direction. I always look my best at closing in case it's going wrong. At least I'll have my diamond earrings on, and I want to be dazzling. I don't want to discuss bad things. So I would do that. And I generally, when I'm in a deal, I tell the other agent, you're doing such a great job, thank you, I appreciate all your hard work. Because I figure I'm kind of a senior person, maybe I'm known a little, and I want them to feel good about themselves. I know that this is a tough business. Doesn't mean I don't give somebody I don't give people a personal hard time. I give them a hard time to get what I want out of the deal. I know the numbers I want a better deposit, I don't understand why. You see, a lot of things that you do, it's hard to unring a bell. So if you're buying a $500,000 house, different price ranges have different deposits. Why would you give a $3,000 deposit? Why? Do you think your buyer's not going to need to come up with the money? So I often get ridiculous, or $5,000. So what do I see a deposit as? Here's how a listing agent sees the deposit. First of all, when I meet with sellers and they ask me how much should the deposit be, I said I want it to be painful for the buyer. I can't tell you that every deposit should be $20,000 because maybe we have a poor buyer, and for them to put up $10,000 is a hardship because they're borrowing 95%. We have great mortgage products. I want the deposit to be a painful amount that the buyer doesn't wake up and say, well, it's only $5,000. I'm just not going to bother to make this deal. So I'm not looking to give a deposit when I represent the buyer so much that it feels so small. Two things. I want to close. I'm going to keep telling you that. If you didn't get to settlement, were you successful? Whose goal did you accomplish when you didn't get to settlement with your client? Nobody's goal. So you want to give a deposit that looks strong enough to support the price of the house and that keeps your buyer in the contract. We are here to sell real estate. We're here to make money. You're not here to make them feel good by putting so little down that they look like they're not interested in the house. And along those lines, if you're putting in a lower offer, you want everything else to look strong. All right, buyer, the house is listed for $200, your max is $180. I think this house could get more. Let's look like we're a really strong buyer, but that's our price. Let's give our deposit up front. You're protected, it's contingent. Let's give our whole $10,000 up front. Let's shorten our home inspection time. Let's do this and that. We can't change what you can afford, but let's look really motivated. So I look for that. That's things I'm telling my seller. So I know that was kind of, went off the track there, but it doesn't pay. for you to come back and say, well, how, to get into this repertoire, where's it gonna get? And the listing agent kind of holds the cards. They just kind of do. They're more the traffic director than you are. I would just go back and kind of try to make them feel, a little shitty there, like, oh my goodness, so how many years have you been doing this? I can see you're so experienced. Anything way, just.
That sounds a little sarcastic.
Maybe a little sarcastic, but, address it. Don't defend yourself. You have no reason to have to defend yourself against somebody. Here's our defense. Our defense against a bad client, a bad buyer, a bad seller is getting up from that table with those huge commissions. 2.5%, 3% is a lot of money at any price. This is the highest paying job you can get. Yes, we can work hard for it, but sometimes you don't. So your revenge is money. So, also for any time that you got up from the table and they don't love you, that rock that's supposed to skip along the water sank. It went right down, you lost all that business. So if your phone isn't ringing, if you're not getting referrals as time goes on, you need to look at yourself. Why aren't people having confidence in you? That doesn't mean, hey, let's stop for lunch. I don't have personal relationships. I have one client I just met that I had to my house. I don't usually do that, nor do they invite me. That doesn't mean you can't, I'm just not. Who am I? I'm their realtor. That's fine. I'm not looking to be your friend. I don't want to go to your parties. Please don't invite me to your house. I don't want to, unless you're having a big party and you're going to introduce me, this is my realtor. Other than that, I'm not looking to add to, my friend list is fine. So that's the whole point. You don't want to get to a place where they're not referring you because your personality got in the way, and the same with the other agent. There's multiple offers. I will tell the agent, I'm great to deal with. I'm going to hold my own. I'm not a headache. I'm not going to beat you up in the home inspection. I already told them the windows suck. We've already discussed all these things. I know you have multiple offers. How do we make it happen? So that's another one of my pet peeves, is this strange thing. So you have a listing. I want you to try this. You have a listing, and an agent calls and says, I'm bringing you an offer, and you say, what is it? You ever want to see anybody think you're looking at them naked? Well, what's the offer? Well, I'm bringing it. Well, is it a secret?
I agree with you. What is the big secret?
Nobody tells you. No, they're not going to. They're like, oh, well, I'm bringing it. Well, you embarrassed? So,
Let me save you some time.
what is it? It's just a funny thing. It's just funny that you're not going to know that information ahead of time. Or, and this is personal, but I don't know why most agents see this differently, that you call an agent and say, do you have any offers? Yes. What? Well, I can't tell you that. Why? Did the offer police call your house? Why can't they tell you that? I have a great buyer. I'm sure I can get you more than you've already got. Why? Well, I'm not allowed. Well, I don't know. What page is that on? I teach real estate licensing. I didn't see anything that said, don't try to get more money for your sellers. I have no idea. But for the most part, if I have, I'm not gonna lie, because that can blow up and the person that was interested, but if I already have full price, I already have full price, I already have a great offer, quite honestly. I'm not gonna make you write an offer for nothing. Unless you're coming in with something better, you don't need to write it. What is wrong with saying that? Why wouldn't I get more money? My thoughts when I'm in a deal, in any deal, once I get the right price, I want to get rid of the appraisal. Unless they're putting 20% down, which has to appraise no matter what. After I get what I want from my seller, my next thing is, what can I get rid of? What could stop this deal? So I don't know why that's a military secret, but it is. So I don't know, how do you feel about that, Kim? Yes? And we are, and the rule is,
I was thinking about something else.
you can do what your seller, would you mind if I told them that we already have full price? I'm trying to get you more money. Would you mind if I got you more money, seller? I know that's not what you want. You probably have to pay more in taxes, but you don't mind, do you? Okay, so in order to get you more money, I'm going to tell them the offer that we have to hope to improve upon it.
Sometimes I think it's because it's an in-house deal and they don't want you to know. That's my first thought. They have an in-house deal and they don't want it to go.
Well, we don't get extra money for in-house. I'll tell somebody if it's my deal. Like, I'll ask the other agent, is it your deal? Because I'm not going to waste my time.
So that's the best way
If
to
it's
do
your
it
own
is-
deal, that's okay. I
Okay.
understand we're all here to
All
make
right.
money. I won't hold it against you.
Does
And I'll
anyone
tell
else get a
people,
bump in their split when they do an in-house deal? They used to.
No, we haven't done that for
Yeah,
years.
Colwell, I mean, I don't know.
Do they?
They used
We
to.
used to
I
have
don't
that. I don't think it's allowed anymore. I think it's a rest, who the hell knows, maybe they do.
Oh,
I mean, we all wanna deal with people that work.
I like the buyer's agents to order the appraisal right away,
Right.
stop waiting a couple weeks.
Well,
before
that's actually
conversation. Like,
in the contract.
I know,
and when
but
I-
nobody follows it. Like,
Well, because they don't want their people to have to pay for it.
why?
Okay, so that's once
I
again,
want it right away, I wanna know what's wrong.
well, that's also something that I'll tell the agent if I'm worried about the appraisal. Or I'll call, when I call their mortgage company, I'll ask them, how do you do things? I'd like the appraisal ordered right away. Well, it depends what my agent wants. Well, I'm sorry, it actually says that everything has to be done in a timely fashion. Mr. Mortgage Person, I'm not sure where your agent has the right, but, you know, that's something I'll be looking for. Or you can put it in there, that they're gonna order it soon.
I'm just saying it to the people in this room, because as much as you talk to a lender, and as much as you talk to other agents, they still, oh, I don't want them having to spend another $400.
And I want them to spend as much money as possible.
Right.
I want them
I
to
do
be
too.
so invested in that house that they have to buy it.
Right.
I don't know, I'm here to sell houses, make money, and along the way is, you know, make your clients happy.